My life had spanned 600 long years upon this earth, enough to witness countless seasons of abundant growth, then decay, enough to see myriad generations born grow old, and finally return to dust. I had known the overwhelming joy of bountiful harvest festivals, and also the wrenching sorrow of funerals bidding farewell to loved ones. I had learned to read the signs in the sky, learned to understand the whisper of the wind, and to know the very heartbeat of the earth itself. Yet, never once, not once, in all that vast, vibrant existence had I felt such profound fear and awe, so profoundly, as in that very fateful moment. The fateful moment. I remember that day, as if it were etched into my very soul. The sun was setting, painting a fiery red across the western sky. I sat on my porch, enjoying the cool evening breeze and gazing at the ominous dark clouds swirling in the heavens like giants, preparing for an unseen battle. My grandchildren played in the yard, their happy giggles, the familiar music that filled the peaceful air. I closed my eyes, savoring the tranquility, before night descended, and then it came. It wasn't the rumbling thunder tearing through the sky, nor the chilling howl of the wind signaling an approaching storm. It was a voice resounding deep within my very mind, not from outside, but from a profound place, a sacred place, echoing from the farthest reaches of the cosmos, from a source I could only perceive with my entire being. The sound had no form, no color, yet it carried the weight of 1,000 years, a majesty that sent shivers down every fiber of my body. The voice spoke, "I will destroy every living creature under heaven with a flood." My heart seemed to stop. The air around me suddenly felt thick and heavy, making it difficult to breathe. This entire world, the world I had lived in, loved, and endured, would it be annihilated completely? Every living thing, from man to beast, from towering ancient trees to tiny wildflowers, every laugh, every sorrow, every hope, every memory, would it all be completely erased from the face of the earth? Fear and revelation. A cold shiver raced down my spine. I collapsed, struggling to grasp the meaning of those words. This world, I knew, was steeped in sin. I had witnessed humanity's depravity worsen day by day, from small lies to horrific acts of violence, from personal vendettas to bloody tribal wars. The earth had been defiled by brutality and immorality. People had turned their backs on their Creator, chasing after base desires and worshipping lifeless idols. Even the angels, created to serve, had fallen, descending to earth, taking women as wives, and giving birth to generations of children with extraordinary power, becoming notorious bullies and tyrants. Everywhere, wickedness seemed to have seeped into the very marrow of humanity. I had prayed many times, weeping over the state of the world. I had strived to live righteously according to God's will, and tried to teach my children the good ways. But I had never imagined such a terrible punishment. Destroy everything? Would that be just? Would there be any chance for salvation? And then the voice spoke again, more specifically, more clearly, as if it knew the doubts tearing at my mind. Build yourself an ark of gopher wood, make it 300 cubits long 50 cubits wide and 30 cubits high. Make 3 decks with a door and a window on the roof. You shall bring your family and every kind of animal into it to survive. An ark? In this desert, I, an old man, already 600 years of age, was I to build a colossal vessel, large enough to house my family and every creature on earth? This was no small fishing boat I used on the river. This was a structure of immense proportions, larger than any human construction ever known. 300 cubits in length, that's over 130 meters, longer than a modern football field. The unbelievable command, a test of faith. Cold sweat streamed down my back, not from the chill of the evening, but from the overwhelming magnitude of this impossible task. But then, within me, a strange certainty arose, an unshakable conviction that this was truly the word of God. I knew I had to obey, even if my reason protested, even if the world scoffed, for if he commanded it, he would provide the means, and in the coming destruction, he had also opened a path for survival. The next day, I gathered my sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. My wife, a gentle and patient woman, along with their wives, were all present. I told them about the voice I had heard, about the command that God had given me. They looked at me with expressions of astonishment, mixed with a hint of worry. Who wouldn't be overwhelmed hearing about a global flood? Who wouldn't be bewildered when tasked with building a colossal ark on dry land? Shem, my eldest son, was the first to speak. "Father, are you sure? Such a large ark and a flood? We have never seen such a thing." "I am sure," I replied. My voice carried a conviction that even surprised myself. "This is the word of God. He does not lie. He has seen that humanity's wickedness is great, and he has decided to destroy all life." Ham, my second son, ever the practical one, began asking about the details. "What kind of gopher wood is that, Father? Where will we find it? And how can we build such a large ark without experience?" "God will show us," I answered. "He has given me specific instructions. We will find gopher wood, a type of wood highly resistant to water. We will make 3 decks, many compartments, and seal it with pitch both inside and out to ensure it is watertight. He will guide our hands." Japheth, my youngest son, usually quiet but incredibly diligent, simply listened in silence, looking at me with eyes full of trust. He knew his father was not one to be easily deceived or to hallucinate. Despite their initial concerns, my family ultimately put their trust in me. That was a great blessing, for without their belief and support, I do not know how I would have completed this task. My wife, like a mother always encouraging from behind, motivated me, prepared food, and cared for the family, so I could focus on the work. The first order of business was finding materials. We had to venture deep into the forests, searching for tall, sturdy gopher trees. Every day we spent hours felling timber, then dragging it back to the ark's construction site. This work demanded extraordinary strength and boundless perseverance. Each heavy log dragged back was a challenge, but we kept pushing, for we knew we were doing God's will. Laughter and sweat, solitude on the path of faith. Building the ark was a monumental challenge, not just physically, but also spiritually. We were not professional shipbuilders, we were simply farmers and herders. Every day, we felled trees, hewed each plank, and joined massive timbers. We learned little by little, learning how to seal the ark with resin, to ensure it was watertight. Our hands became calloused, our muscles ached, but our resolve remained unshaken. The ark gradually emerged, standing proudly in the dry land. Its immense size astonished those around us. They were our neighbors, people we knew. At first they were curious, Then curiosity turned to skepticism, and then to mockery. Old Noah's gone mad, building a boat on dry land. Does he think there'll be a flood? The sun shines brightly every day. Surely the old man has lost his mind. Those words echoed in the air, growing louder and clearer each day. Children threw stones at the half-built ark. Adults pointed and laughed. They saw us as eccentrics, as fools. Perhaps, in their eyes, we were indeed that way. How could an ordinary person believe in a global flood, believe in the need to build such an absurdly large ark? But we persevered. Every drop of pitch applied, every timber joined, was a prayer, an unshakable belief in the promise of the Most High. We knew that one day the laughter would cease, replaced by the sound of rising waters. We did not argue. We did not explain. We simply did the work that God had commanded. Time passed. A year, then 10 years, then 50 years. The ark grew larger and larger, becoming a colossal wooden mass, dominating the area. Some people even forgot its original purpose, viewing it merely as a strange architectural feat of old Noah. But we did not forget. On clear moonlit nights, when everyone else was asleep, I often walked around the ark, caressing each plank, imagining the day it would be filled with life. My wife and daughters-in-law worked tirelessly, preparing food, water, and everything necessary for a long journey. My sons became skilled carpenters, but more importantly, they became people of strong faith. They overcame judgmental stares and whispered slanders. To continue God's work, we built not just an ark, but a strong family founded on faith. The door closed and silent dread, the final moments of waiting. Finally, after many years of painstaking labor, the ark was complete. It stood like a wooden mountain, sturdy and majestic. We had finished every detail, from the animal compartments to the food storage. An uncanny silence hung over the area. The laughter had faded, perhaps because they had grown too accustomed to the sight, or perhaps because deep down they began to feel something unsettling. And then the fateful day arrived. One morning, just as the sun rose, a strange phenomenon occurred. Pairs of animals began to appear. They did not come randomly, but in pairs, male and female, walking in an orderly fashion, as if guided by an invisible hand. From the slow, heavy steps of colossal elephants to the scurrying of tiny mice, from majestic lions to chirping sparrows, all headed towards the ark. There were creatures I had never seen in my life, coming from distant lands I had only heard whispers of. They lined up neatly, without any growls or fights. A miraculous peace enveloped them all. I saw the astonishment in the eyes of our neighbors, watching from afar. Perhaps, at this moment, they began to understand. My sons and I, along with our families, guided the animals into the ark. We arranged them into their prepared compartments, providing food and water. This was a task that took many days, but everything proceeded with an astonishing smoothness. When all the animals were settled, and my family had also entered the ark, I took one last look at the outside world, the unfamiliar faces, filled with doubt. The mocking glances were still there, but now, mixed with fear and confusion, they stood, motionless, like statues, watching us. I didn't say a word, for words had become meaningless. God's action was about to unfold. And then, something I will never forget happened. The colossal door of the ark, heavy and secure, slowly closed, not by our hands, but by some invisible force, the hand of the Almighty. A soft thud echoed as the door clicked into place, like a final declaration for one era and the opening of a new one. A heavy feeling surged within me. That door did not just close off the outside world, but it also sealed the fate of millions of living beings. A terrifying silence enveloped the ark, broken only by our own labored breathing and the rustling of myriad creatures. I felt a profound sadness in my heart, a sorrow for the coming destruction, but also a strange peace, for I knew I had obeyed. We were here, on this ark, the last remaining survivors of a world about to be erased. Tears and floodwaters, the harsh purification. Then, the wrath of heaven and earth began. At first I heard distant thunder rumbling, then gradually growing louder. More furious, lightning tore across the sky, illuminating the small opening of the window on the ark's roof. And then, rain, not the ordinary rain I had ever seen. These were torrents of water, powering down incessantly, as if the floodgates of heaven had been flung wide open. The deafening roar of the water echoed everywhere, like the thunder of 1,000 galloping horses. Then another sound, more terrifying, arose. The great springs of the deep also burst forth, gushing up. Water did not just come from the sky, but also from the depths of the earth, rising with dizzying speed. I heard the screams of people from outside, the cries of trapped animals. These were the sounds of panic, of ultimate fear, of despair, when faced with an unstoppable force. Our ark, that colossal wooden mass, slowly began to rise. It was no longer resting on the ground, but was now floating on the ever-rising waters. The ark swayed gently, then stabilized, like a child being cradled by its parents. I looked out through the opening of the window on the roof, seeing the tallest trees gradually submerging, towering mountains swallowed slowly but surely by the churning sea of water. The water rose continuously for 40 days and 40 nights. The entire world outside became a vast, boundless sea, with no dry land left to cling to. All life on Earth, except for the people and animals in the ark, was completely destroyed. I felt an immense sorrow. My tears mingled with the floodwaters, not from fear for myself, but from grief for a world that was no more. A world that was once beautiful, but due to sin, had been ravaged. Our ark drifted on the vast waters for 150 days. Everything outside was a monotonous gray of water and clouds. There was no anchor point, no horizon, just an endless ocean. It was truly difficult to imagine the immensity of that flood. We lived in the ark, caring for the animals, sharing food and water. Although the space was cramped and the air humid, we maintained our composure. We knew that God was protecting us. A longing for land and the crimson hope. After 150 days, the water began to recede. I felt a change in the ark's movement. It was no longer drifting aimlessly, but seemed to have bumped into something. And then, after many days, the ark finally rested on the summit of Mount Ararat. I had never seen this mountain before, but I knew this was where God had led us. We remained in the ark for many more days. Although we knew the ark had landed, we still couldn't go outside. The ground was still damp, and the air still carried the heavy scent of water. I longed to see dry land, longed to breathe fresh air, longed to feel the earth beneath my feet. After 40 days, from the ark resting on the mountain, I opened the window of the ark and released a raven. The raven flew away, flew on and on, then returned to the ark because it found no place to perch. That told me there was still too much water. 7 days later, I released a dove again. The dove also flew away, flew on, and also returned because it too found no dry place to perch. I knew I had to be patient. 7 more days passed, and I released the dove a third time. This time, I waited in suspense. Time passed very slowly. Dusk fell, and then I saw it. The dove returned, flying straight into the window, and in its beak, it carried a fresh olive leaf. My heart pounded. The olive leaf, that was a sign, that was a promise. It was proof that the water had receded significantly and that plants had begun to sprout again. A wave of hope surged through me. The light of life had returned. I waited 7 more days, then I released the dove again. This time it flew away and never returned. I knew that the ground was completely dry. A new beginning and the eternal covenant, the promise of the rainbow. A year had passed since the day we entered the ark. Finally, God spoke to me. Come out of the ark, you and your wife and your sons and your sons' wives. Bring out every kind of living creature that is with you, the birds, the animals, and all the creatures that move along the ground, so they can multiply on the earth and be fruitful and increase in number on it. I opened the ark door. The brilliant sunlight streamed directly into my eyes, causing me to squint. The fresh, cool air flooded into the ark's interior, carrying the scent of damp earth and new life. I stepped out of the ark, feeling the ground beneath my feet. A sense of freedom and gratitude overflowed within me. My family and the animals also emerged one by one. They looked around, breathed the air, and ran freely. It was a truly beautiful sight, a symbol of resurrected life. The first thing I did, after leaving the ark, was to build an altar for God. I offered him burnt offerings from the clean animals. I wanted to express my deepest gratitude for his protection, for saving us from destruction. And then God spoke to me, and to all my descendants, and to every creature on earth. I establish my covenant with you and with your descendants after you, and with every living creature that is with you. Never again will all life be destroyed by the waters of a flood. He gave us a sign of this covenant, the rainbow in the sky. He said, whenever I bring clouds over the earth and the rainbow appears in the clouds, I will remember my covenant between me and you and all living creatures of every kind. I looked up at the sky. A magnificent rainbow, in all its vibrant colors, appeared after the rain. It was not just an ordinary natural phenomenon, but a promise, an assurance from the Most High. Every time I see a rainbow, I will remember his justice, his mercy, and his promise, never again to destroy the world by flood. My life has started anew, from nothing, along with my family and the rescued creatures. We had gone through a harsh purification, but we had also received a second chance. We will multiply and build a new world, a world that hopefully will live according to God's will.